Well, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Ellithorpe from Tustin Longevity Center here in Tustin, California, Southern California. And we are doing the Talk to the Doctor or Ask the Doctor. We do this every every Tuesday at 6 p.m. till 7 p.m. And we try to take any question that you might have. And we are a group of 6 or 7 healthcare providers, and we are functionally integrative, alternative medicine oriented. We're all standard trained physicians, naturopath, physician assistants, and we are trying to make a venue for our patients especially, so that if they have a general question, they think of something, there's another way in which they can reach us and talk to us, and we can help field a lot of issues and questions. This is also converted into a transcript afterwards. So if you go to our website, tlcdoctors.com, that's tlcdoctorsplural.com, you can see the blog and you'll see the transcripts there. That way, if you don't want to listen to every question, you can kind of jump down and scan down to a question that might intrigue you. I do the best to answer all the questions I have. I've been practicing over 41 years. I'm a general practitioner, so I see and do everything. And, my dad was worked at Armor Food Research when I was a little girl, and was a bit of a specialist in the fatty acids research sciences back then. And so I grew up, now that I'm just about 70 years old, I've grown up in the world of functional medicine, food sciences, diet, nutrition, and healthcare. But the other physicians, Dr. Merrick, Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Johnston, Dr. Kaur, P.A. Patel, and myself, we are all trained physicians, and we are experienced with much of functional medicine. So if you combine all of our years of experience in this working full time, we certainly go well over 100 years of experiencing hundreds and thousands of people with various topics. And we see themes, and we see the same thing over and over again. And we find daily solutions that mitigate or improve people's most of the time, because 80% of all disease or more is lifestyle generated. All these chronic diseases like cancer, diabetes, heart disease. Now, this is not meant to be personal advice or management through YouTube. This is meant to be a general response. If you happen to be a patient of ours and you do have a specific question, please call our office so we can pull up your chart and get that question in there and get your healthcare provider to address it and return your call or make a follow-up or whatever needs to be done at 714-544-1521. But in general, we will try and answer these things in a sense that would be a community type answer. So what I do normally is we get questions. So today I have 2 sheets here, and I did copy the chat questions from last week, because you'll remember I went over a lot last week, and I had so many questions on the email. Down here, you'll see in the liner a response for you to ask a question by email. You can open that up and get the email address if you want to type in a question. If you're on YouTube, you can go to the chat area and type in a question there. So here we are today. It's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I hope everyone has some plan to let love in your heart overflow anything that is negative. Even if your loved one, your spouse, has hurt your feelings, I hope that love in you would be so bubbled up that you would break through that memory and let it fade away and wither, and just give a big hug and kiss to whomever you are espoused to, and so forth. So with that, let's begin our questions, and we will start with the chat from last week because I didn't get to that. And this was from February 7th. Christina had said or asked the question, what are your thoughts about walking barefoot on tiled floor? What are your thoughts about walking barefoot on a tiled floor? Well, that's an interesting question, Christina. There is a concept called grounding, and you could get some grounding if you are on some form of cement material. I think it has to be moist though, but the sweat in your feet could have some moisture to it, and there could be some sense of grounding. That's where your body has a electrochemical connection with the earth through your sweat on the soles of your feet, and then you discharge negative ions, and it's a very healthy thing. That's why people who swim in the ocean tend to be healthy people. They discharge negative ions through their skin. Another thing is, if you walk barefoot on a very firm surface, like a cement or tiled ground, you're getting more of a vibration, a sudden deceleration up through your femur and your tibia, fibula, through the bones to your hip. And that vibrational stepping will jiggle the periosteum surrounding your bone, and it'll create what we call a piezometric electrochemical discharge, which stimulates osteoblasts, bone formation, and reforming. So I am in favor of stomping. You'll hear me talk about stomping, like you're an angry toddler throwing a temper tantrum, and you're stomping as hard as you can, and letting that kind of shock wave go up your feet to the heels, to the tibia, to the femur, to your hips, and up your spine, and you'll feel that thudding. And that is very good for bone development. Another thing I do is I take my arm and I jam it right into the table, so I get that sudden deceleration into my radius and ulna. And I hope that's what you're referring to, Christina. So my thoughts are you might be able to get some grounding effect by walking on a tiled floor barefoot. It'd be better if it was cement that was wet, and there is some electrochemical connection with the earth below. Eli said, what are your thoughts or opinions on EDTA chelation and curing or improving autism? I have practiced carnivore, water fasting, and intermittent fasting, and have taken your knowledge in a low-carb diet. I'm 34 years old, blood type O, 6'2", and I reversed my type 2 diabetes. Praise the Lord. Edema healed my diverticulitis and went from 415 pounds to 349 pounds. Praise the Lord. All thanks to your gifted knowledge and health. Well, we do praise God for his great design. Just remember, all that I have, God has given me. All the knowledge that I have has been given to me. I stand on my father's background and the great scientists around him, and him upon the shoulders of many other great students and teachers before him. The greatest, of course, is God himself through the scripture. And so God has made us fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139, I love that psalm. It talks about how we were formed written in the book are my members even before they were formed. And so that's talking about the DNA. I love reading the Bible cover to cover. I do it about every 9 months now. And I tell you, each time I finish the Bible cover to cover, I just pause. Even with today's reading, I'm in First Kings right now. I think I was reading chapter 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I read 4 chapters a day. And I just paused to think about the great men. I had just finished the story of the passing of King David and the great things he said in departing to his son Solomon about if you're going to be a leader, be a humble leader, putting God's word, his righteousness, his precepts first. And so we are to look at the temple that God has given us, this body. And Romans 12 says that we should our bodies, we should lay our bodies down as a living sacrifice, which is our reasonable service. And so as a Christian, that's my faith base. It teaches me to respect every human soul, every created being, no matter what their political or their philosophical premise is. I see them as being created in the image of God. And with that, it gives me great respect. There was a time in my life where I didn't know the scriptures. I wasn't led to go to church. I was not led to read the Bible, although my parents were Christians, and I was blessed to see my father accept the Lord Jesus Christ as his personal Savior. But they did believe in God, and what a blessing that was to me. Even though I wasn't told to read the Bible, I wasn't brought to church. Maybe on a rare occasion. And then the long and the short of it was with stress, with problems in my life, I at least knew that there was a God that my parents referred to, and then I sought him out, and I knew I should read about him, and that's what helped me. And so we give God all the glory, just like you said, and I appreciate you thanking me as well. We can all be a blessing to one another. One of the other things I like about the Bible so much is we are our brother's keeper. We are supposed to be living epistles read of all men, it says in the scriptures. Paul says the way we behave, the way we talk, all these things should reflect that we know who we are, how precious we are, and everyone else, and that we should treat one another with that same respect. I am so proud of your success, Eli. So what was your question? Let's see. What are your thoughts or opinions on EDTA chelation and curing or improving autism? I'm very much impressed with it. And I have used EDTA, which is ethylene diamine tetracetic acid. It's like an amino acid. It is man-made. I do see it as a gift from God. And it is able to chelate, is the Latin word for claw, and that means it can capture something, and if this is the heavy metal, it will take it. And we believe that there is credible science piling up and has been established, and treatments have been done to reduce the heavy metal exposure to aluminum that might have been in some vaccinations, to the mercury, to the lead in the environment, to all these pollutants. And so these toxic metals bioaccumulate in the body. We have no way to remove them in general, so they slowly accumulate. And much like, I use the example, if you had aluminum in a powdered form in a box, and you opened up your what do you call it when you open up a electrical box on a house and where all the little breakers are, whatever that is, when you open up that breaker box, if you took the aluminum powder and you blew it into that electrical box, tiny particles, molecules of the aluminum are probably going to get into to some of those connections, and you'll get static, and maybe the lights will flutter, and so forth. And so the electric to your house and stuff might reflect that. So I see that as happening to atrial fibrillation. I see that as happening in our thoughts. I see that as happening in our tremors. I see that as happening, all throughout the body, because we are just vibrational collections of the beauty and the science of electrochemical bonds. And so EDTA chelation is well established, well over 70, 80 years now, on removing these and so many other toxic heavy metals. There are no safe levels. I know there are ranges on the lab papers that talk about lead ranges that you might typically find, but we're in a polluted environment. There were no such ranges like that in someone 300 years ago. There wasn't. So since the Industrial Revolution, we've tolerated way too high of the levels. And in the 40 plus years I've been around, I've seen them slowly admit and lower the tolerated ranges. And there's nothing safe about it. So I do believe that your thinking, your heart beats, everything about you will improve. So hopefully you can go to acam.org, acam.org, and find a chelating trained doctor. I and Dr. Lynn Patrick and Dr. Dorothy Merritt, we are the American College for the Advancement of Medicine teachers of chelation therapy in the United States for all the doctors, I guess, around the world. And we do that usually every November. And you can go on YouTube, and if you look up the YouTube video called TACT, T-A-C-T, Update 2019, Dr. Dr. Lamas, Lamas. If you call that YouTube video up, TACT, T-A-C-T, Update 2019, Dr. Lamas, you'll see on the YouTube selection come up, and that'll be at the top. You'll see Dr. Gervasio Lamas, the head of cardiology at Cedars-Sinai, and he just praises EDTA chelation as a cardiologist. He wishes he learned about it sooner and the remarkable things it has done, and the trial to assess chelation therapy that the National Institutes of Health, by the grace of our mighty God, was able to, somehow we got this trial financed and done. Thousands were in it, and 55, 60,000 IVs were studied, and it proved conclusively, leading also to TEC Trial 2. TEC Trial 3 is ongoing right now, to the tremendous benefits, life extension, and better circulation of it. But right under Dr. Lamas, you'll see the very next picture is always Dr. Dorothy Merritt. And you'll see her there in her cute little hair and stuff, and it'll be something about the ACAM conference on chelation. It's a 1 hour, and that one goes over all the other wonderful benefits of EDTA chelation, the history of the toxic loads that have been in the industrial usage of petroleum products that need a metal in it to help catalyze the combustion for the carburetors that burn and create the pressure for a pumping action to drive the wheels in cars and so forth. And that combustion is enhanced more efficiently if you had lead in it. Now I think they took the lead out and they have nickel or something in it instead, but nickel is also a toxic element too. But that's a long answer, Eli, and a lot of praising the Lord for your wonderful accomplishments. We're so, so proud of you. Let's see, Christina also said, hi, Dr. Rita. Sometimes when I drink a small coffee in the afternoon, I feel bad. Sometimes tight chest and shortness of breath. Today I feel nausea. Is it the caffeine? Does caffeine have health benefits? Do you know of any doctors in the Midwest? I want to see one because I have a lot of problems, but don't trust regular doctors anymore since the pandemic. Well, I empathize with you and I understand. I would go to acam.org. Again, they will help you find a doctor who has gone out of their way to try and expand outside of their box of specialty training and learn some of these other wonderful functional alternative things such as EDTA chelation therapy. And you can put a mile radius in it and your zip code, and that will help you, hopefully, Christina. In general, O-type blood people have the hardest time with coffee. The reason why O-type blood people have the hardest time is because O's as a class of people generally make more stomach acid than the B-type blood, the ABs, and the A's. A's being traditionally the ones that make the least amount of stomach acid in general. So O-type blood people, if you take a cup of coffee, especially in the afternoon, your stomach has been, trying to deal with making acid for breakfast and lunch, and there may be excess acid. So a cup of coffee, which is an acidic solution, would aggravate, and one of the signs of excess acidity could be nausea and some of this sense of unwell feeling, tightness, and so forth. Remember, from the lining of your mouth to the esophageal junction, the only part in the body that doesn't have like a saran wrap, a fascial lining, is the esophagus. There's no wrap really from the tube of your mouth to the entrance to your stomach, the esophagus, so that if you burp up acid out of your stomach into your esophagus, you're going to feel that heartburn, but it'll inflame the tissues, and that could actually inflame your heart, and create some irritation there, and you can get some palpitations. So it's quite a scenario. It's kind of like why we put coverings around fireplaces, so the wall board around a fire stove and stuff doesn't heat the wall board, and then it suddenly combusts on fire. Just the same with your esophagus. It can get inflamed and get so irritated, the heart next to it pumping could get irritated a little bit. I mean, these are true things. So, I would avoid that afternoon coffee. Another thing is just make sure you take it with some food, maybe, or you could take L-glutamine powder, or you could take phospholipid powders we have here at TLC. Sometimes I'll have them take this powder in the form of, I use it so much, I keep it here all the time. This phospholipid is what will help the lining. It's called phospholipid powder. And we have SBI Protect powder. Those two, if you take a scoop of it, actually promote healing of the lining of the gut. L-glutamine powder we have is called Glutagenix. The other one is called Glutashield. So those are all useful things that might be a help. Dolores said, "Hi, Dr. Rita. My son was diagnosed with Bell's palsy. He is 51 years old. He is taking steroids, antiviral, and eye drops. Doctor told him he could go blind. He is having problems eating and drinking. Any suggestion? What causes Bell's palsy? And his job, majority of work is on the computer." Well, Bell's palsy is the drooping of the face, and I have it. I don't know if you can notice, but this side of my face droops just a slight bit more than the left-hand side of my face. And I had Bell's palsy right after the birth of my second son, about 6-7 weeks after his birth by C-section. I was ordered to get the flu shot on active duty as an ER doctor. The stress in my life, the long, hard, crazy hours of the ER, having had major surgery, trying to breastfeed 2 young children, working as an ER doctor in that stress and all the colds and coughing, I got a viral cold and my face drooped. And so normally it is a common cold virus that does it. And I just took a lot of vitamin C orally. I think I was on Shaklee vitamins at that time. That's almost 40 years ago. I took Shaklee vitamins as well. And I ate a very good diet. I was eating the, real foods and so forth. So the Bell's palsy is a description of the trigeminal nerve that comes out in this fashion in 3 branches. And the lower branch impacted me. These 2 upper branches can affect your eye and this upper part. If the viral illness irritating the nerves comes out and shows up to the eye itself, the top of the eye could get, especially if it's herpes, it could get herpes virus outbreak. It could harm the eye and the optic nerve and so forth, and that's why you have to be careful. I have my patients use intravenous vitamin C, high dose, 25 grams, 50 grams, 75, 100 grams intravenously. Of course, I didn't have anyone who could give me vitamin C IV back on active duty at Fort Knox, Ireland Army Hospital at that time. But that's what we do here. We give quercetin. Quercetin works as an antiviral. We use vitamin D, high dose. I would go on 50,000 units once a day for 5 to 10 days, and then drop back to 10,000 thereafter. We use zinc, the Albion chelated, highest quality minerals of zinc, and fasting always stimulates antiviral activity. So going on a fast, a water fast for a day or 2 always helps that as well. Taking systemic enzymes also helps disinflame and hastens the healing. It works kind of like the steroids without any of the bad side effects. And B vitamins for stress. So that's what I would have done, and that's what I would recommend, and that's what Bell's palsy is. It's the inflammation of some of the branches of the trigeminal nerve that are attacked by a viral thing. Now let's go to the new questions that were emailed to me. Oh, it looks like there's 2 here from last week that got missed. Okay. Carrie says from February 7th, what causes the little sores on the tip of the tongue? Now I also have a large white sore on the side of my tongue, making it painful to chew and even swallow. What causes them? How to get rid of them? Carrie, these are called aphthous ulcers in general. In general, if you have a sore spot on the tip of your tongue, sometimes along the side rim of it, these are little damaged parts. Remember how we're always pointing to the cell membrane where there's a hole bumped into it and punched right through that cell membrane there. And our job is to eat the healthy fats and healthy proteins in our grass-fed beef and prairie chicken and wild-caught fish and prairie-raised pork and our free-range eggs and stuff, and fix it by eating the phospholipid fats that are rich in the yolks of the eggs and the skin of the chicken and the meat and the fish and the pork, and so our body can plug these holes and put the fats and the proteins back in their place. Now, often you might have sipped some very hot coffee or soup or food that created a tiny damage point, okay? You might have accidentally bit on something or scratched it with some rough piece in your mouth that you were chewing, and that created a breach where viral particles, our mouth is not a clean place, and viruses and bacteria and stuff are there, and they'll take over and they'll start eroding So what do I do? Let me take a sip of hot coffee. Good oral hygiene. Brush your teeth no less than twice a day, first thing in the morning, last thing before you go to bed. Drink enough water. The sugars and the starches and the excess carbs depress our immune system, so you have to be low carb in general. Exercising builds up your immune system. Exercise should be a part of everyone's lifestyle, no matter what your age. Get a good night's sleep. That's the only time you heal. But the thing I would do is I would use Argentyn silver. Argentyn silver, I have these tiny little bottles. This is the dropper one. I'll put a drop in my eyes. That would also be very good for the gentleman who has the Bell's palsy and concern about the eyes. Sometimes I'll take and pour out of a bigger bottle right after I brush my teeth, and I'll take a sip of my Argentyn, swish it around, gargle, and then I swallow it, because that will kill down the viral, bacterial, any fungi, yeast or anything, and keep those numerically low, those particles. You could do that 3, 4, 5 times a day, and that will help you greatly. Taking vitamin C will help you. Taking zinc will help you. Taking vitamin D3 will help you. And I pretty much use at least 5,000 international units of vitamin D3 or 10,000 international units of vitamin D3 with vitamin K2. But if I'm getting ill, I will take vitamin D3, 50,000 international units, one a day for about 5 days. That is what I would do for those tongue things and how to keep them going away. And as soon as they show up, I start doing that. Nancy says, I am hoping to become one of your patients. Well, thank you, Nancy. I have Medicare and a AARP Medicare supplement. Is that an insurance that you accept in your practice? I know we take Medicare. I don't know if we take AARP, but please call the office at 714-544-1521 and ask for Mandeep or billing, or the girls up front. I have the best staff. And they can probably answer that question for you, Nancy. But thank you for considering us. God bless you. Lynn says, hello, Dr. Rita. What is your opinion of using Botox for essential tremors in the hands? I've never heard of it used in that fashion, Lynn, before. The recommended meds seem to have undesirable side effects. Lynn, Botox itself has potential undesirable effects, and Botox is itself a toxin, okay? Botox, extracted and attenuated, you might say, so it won't be as disastrous as an infection as botulinum toxins. So what I would say to you is we have many people with, familial, benign essential familial tremors. We have people with tremors for many reasons, Parkinsonian, and there are plenty of lifestyle and nutraceuticals and EDTA chelation. Remember, I was talking about how heavy metals bioaccumulate, and over time, they mess up the signals, and we start getting these tremors. So physical therapy, exercise are very valuable. Eating a diet that helps put a good myelin sheath surrounding your nerves. Remember, they're surrounded with a fatty insulation, just like a wire has a rubber insulation around it. So do your nerves, and that can be damaged just like this cell membrane can be damaged. The myelin sheath itself can be damaged. So eating a healthy phospholipid fat, healthy essential fats, rich foods like egg yolks, prairie raised meat, wild fish, and so forth. Removing inflammation is very important. Getting a good night's sleep along with adequate hydration, chelation to remove toxins, and the fat soluble vitamins such as A, E, K, and D. So I would look at to other areas, Lynn, rather than Botox injections for tremors in your hands. I just have never heard of it in 41 years of practicing medicine. Renee says, I'm a 36-year-old female who struggles with anxiety, heart palpitations, sleep maintenance insomnia, migraines, and excessive sighing. My labs show I have high cholesterol, and my ECG electrocardiogram shows a right bundle branch block and a pattern consistent with pulmonary disease. My cardiologist, and I'm glad you saw a cardiologist, says he is not concerned by these results in part because I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have wheezing or significant shortness of breath. So I feel as though I should not be concerned either, but I can't shake this feeling that something is possibly being overlooked here. What do you suggest for my diet, exercise routine, and mental health to strengthen my heart and improve my overall quality of life and health? Well, all the things I always say, Renee, I would say find out what your blood type is. And if your blood type is A, very often these symptoms show up with anxiety and heart palpitations, insomnia, and all these soft signs, including the shortness of breath. And the reason is in the A-type blood, if you're not digesting your food well, you can't repair your cells well, the cell membranes, which means you become more susceptible to, you've heard of leaky gut. Well, we should coin the term leaky cells, and they don't function as well. And just like I said, your heart, the heart cells could be more susceptible to a hippity hop and a skip and a hop. And people who are blood type A don't digest their food as well, which means they don't digest fats and proteins as well, which means they don't have the building blocks to repair the cell membranes in their nerves for anxiety, or their heart to avoid palpitations, or their brain so it's able to calm down at night and go to sleep, and so on and so forth. Do you see how, if you understand the building blocks, and they do not teach this in medical school, they do not teach this. And so doctors are myopic, just looking in their own area, and they can't seem to bridge that gap to see the beautiful symphony of the connectiveness of these simple principles of health. So find out your blood type. If you're an A, you would want to get a digestive enzyme support. What I've used here for 35 years is OrthoDigest, or you could call our office OrthoDigest. We also provide called DigestZyme. And take it when you eat your food, 1 or 2 capsules. I am B positive blood, and now at about 70, just about, I have to use 3 or 4 with all my meals. I used to have what I thought was a iron stomach, but now as I age, my digestion time has greatly slowed down. I think it can take up to 6 hours for me to digest my food and for it to pass then through my duodenum into my small intestine. I need this very, very much to stay vibrant, healthy, and repaired. So I would begin here with this. And you have to remember, if you are not repairing as well, you are leaking out of your cells what we call leaky cell membranes. The leaky cell membrane, instead of leaky gut, leaky cell membranes. And the minerals that you need as cofactors in just hundreds of millions of reactions every second become lost and flow out. Your energy flows out, your stamina flows out, all these things. And then you sense this as a sense of anxiety. So you would need to take a very good multi-mineral, for which we have the Albion based, and that's the name of the type of company that puts the amino acid connected to a wonderful mineral like zinc or magnesium or calcium or potassium and so forth. Then I would eat the food that repairs this, the very egg yolks, chicken, beef, and so forth, free range, prairie ranged. And I would not eat past 6 o'clock at night. I would start exercising. I would eat in a time restricted phase, roughly between noon and 6 p.m. And I would be low carb, so you don't clog up your capillaries with sticky little sugars and so forth. And that's how I would begin. Try and find a functional doctor, integrative medicine doctor. Again, I use acam.org to try and find one near you. And I pray, Renee, that you get an answer to this as well. Now, Renee, if you're O-type blood, I say A first because I would say 80+%, close to 90% of my patients are A-type blood. And I don't advertise for A-type blood. It's just that if they don't digest well, they can't fix well, and they always become ill first. So, but O-type blood, they're the other end of the spectrum. They have too much acid. They'll get the ulcers, they get the arthritis, and they can have a lot of thyroid and rheumatoid osteoarthritis, stiffness, and then they can get the heart palpitations from the inflammation of their stomach into their esophagus and so forth. And so the wheat and dairy products are so harmful for the O-type blood group. So that would be a quick fix for them. Julie, I'm getting osteoporosis in my upper neck and lower back. What supplements and anything else to help my bones? Well, Julie, I would definitely stomp on a hard surface with your bare feet on cement or a very hard surface. I would stomp 10, 15 seconds in the morning, 10, 15 seconds in the evening. I would jam on the, your palm into to shutter up your radius and ulna. Not terribly hard, but enough to suddenly stop. And then I would use natural hormones if you can, estradiol and progesterone. I would consider DHEA so you don't have high cortisol. Cortisol goes up with stress and aging, and that's catabolic. It tears the body down, promotes the breakdown of your body and buildup of fat and so forth. It's a steroid type of natural hormone. So I would use the natural precursor DHEA. The estradiol and the progesterone are bone building, sleep enhancing. Estrogen is collagen elastin for your skin, and you have less flab. Fasting stimulates growth hormones, so intermittent fasting, eating in a time restricted phase, getting a good night's sleep. I never really recommend calcium. Instead, I say eat meat, fish, turkey, chicken, beef, eggs, free range, grass fed and finished. And you use a digestive enzyme. If you're old enough to be on hormones, then you're probably old enough to need a digestive enzyme to help you pull out from the meat, fish, turkey, chicken, beef, eggs, and stuff the calcium that's in it. And I always use vitamin D3 with K2. Vitamin K2, MK7 is going to help put that calcium from your diet into the bone and not into your coronary artery or soft tissues. It'll go in the bone where it needs to be. And that's what I would do. Christine says, can toenail fungus be caused by diet? Are there any good options to treat it? Topical and laser treatments have been so far unsuccessful. Absolutely. The American diet is full of sugar, high fructose corn syrup that was created. It is The patent for it was sold from Japan to Monsanto, I think in 1970, 71. And the sugar, the starch, the bread, the sweet drinks, the lattes, the frappes, all this sugar stuff raises the average blood sugar, hemoglobin A1C, which is the measurement of glucose sticking to the proteins in the body, goes up and up. Their range of tolerance is too high. If the standard is 5.7 limit, we cut ours down by at least a half a point to 5.2. If the fasting blood sugar on your lab allows it to go to 115, many labs do that, or to 100, we lower ours tolerance to 85 or less. If triglycerides, which are simple fats made from carbohydrate high diets, if the normal limit is 150, we lower ours to 50, just to get you away from all that sugar stickiness, because that depresses the immune system. And if you don't have a good immune system, you won't fight off a fungal overgrowth. And fungus loves sugar to eat. And so the diet is the number one thing to be ketogenic, fasting. And then I put Argentine silver. This kills fungus, and I put it on the toes. I have a spray bottle where you just pump it and spray it, on it. That's simple to do, and spray your toes. Thank God I don't have any fungus, and I think this is all because of these wonderful things I was taught to do, and I teach my patients. So yeah, those are some ideas to do. Carolyn, people with autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis are more prone to heart disease. Besides living a healthy lifestyle and diet, what can we do as a preventative? Also, do we need special testing or to see a heart specialist as a preventative? Well, we can certainly do very good preventative teaching. If your doctor sees a history that you're giving us for which you need a stress treadmill, or if you're at an age to do some preventative screening for your heart endurance before embarking on some new strenuous exercise, we need the cardiologist for a stress treadmill. And they watch your heart, perform as you're walking on a treadmill, and they're monitoring your heart as that you put more and more stress on it to make sure it can handle that increased workload. The other thing is we can do some sugar, fruit sugar levels, triglycerides. We always want your triglycerides to be no higher than your HDL is. We've said this for over 40 years now. I thank God and my father and the research scientists at Armour Food for teaching me cholesterol and butter was never the problem for heart disease. It was always the sugar. And that those wonderful doctors in the lab there at Armour Food Research had read the book Pure, White, and Deadly by Dr. Yudkin, Yudkin. He wrote this. It was about sugar and how it was exploding on the market and getting into all foods and cereals. And back then, the cheap food for moms was cereal boxes. Quickly just feed your kids cereal, sugar cereals in the morning, and it was driving all the kids to have rotten teeth and chubby tummies and problems even back then. So yes, we can do plenty of studies. I really have never seen anyone in my practice until the mRNA injections came out. Really, we've had no heart attacks, we had no strokes, essentially until that mRNA injectable came out. And I could count on my hand one or two who had a stroke in our practice, and everyone was doing well and living well. So we were always doing the right thing, not worrying about total cholesterol or even the LDL. We were always harping on them on their fasting blood sugar, 85 the limit fasting. Triglycerides, we always told them to aim for 50 or to never be any higher than their HDL, and that their hemoglobin A1C would be 5.2. And we just never had a problem with the heart. We would do EDTA chelation to enhance microcirculation. We always told them to exercise. Drink enough water, never eat late, use stomach enzymes, minerals like magnesium. And we just had the greatest, and we still do have the greatest healthy people. And I am just so blessed because of it. Carolyn says, we did that on autoimmune diseases. June, 3 questions. I've developed arthritis in several joints. What are the supplements that you recommend for prevention and or repair of joints? Number 2, my understanding is that silver is a heavy metal. Do we need to be careful how much argent and silver we use so that we don't accumulate silver in our body? And number 3, is EDTA chelating agent absorbed by the body more efficiently if it is given at a slower rate? Thank you for sharing your extensive knowledge with us. First question, for arthritis in several joints, I would want to know your blood type. O's tend to have the worst arthritis. My husband just came to me last week. He's O positive blood. And all his life, I've ever since I met him at 16, he used to drink an RC Cola. I don't know, Royal Crown, if you remember that. We were from the Chicagoland, northern Chicago area. He would drink a whole RC Cola. And then he would get a big Hershey's chocolate, the kind where you break off chunks. And he would down one of those huge, 6-inch by 8-inch big, humongous bars that are, and he would just eat it. And I stared at him and I said, John, my dad says you can't do that. And you can't marry me either if you do that, because that's a no-go. I said, I have to marry a Christian. But even as a little kid dating, I knew that was wrong. And he would, I noticed when he would eat the dairy and the wheat, he would complain more as he hit his 30s and 40s. So last week he came to me and he said at 74, 75 years old now, my husband would grab a doorknob and his arthritis would hurt him. So I said, fast for 2 days, go on a water fast. Take your Vitalzyme, 5 twice a day on an empty stomach, and your other vitamins. He's on Juice Plus, and he's on the multi-mineral, and he's on the DS, and what else is he on? Maybe some, well, that's essentially what he's on. And he did it, and he came to me 2 days later. I guaranteed him and he was joyful, and he said, I'm 80% better, So he went a 3rd day, he did a 3-day fast. And he's totally staying away, yet again, from bread and cereals and grains and dairy. And he sees the difference, and, he'll slip back. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect either. But that's what I would do, June. I would use the Vitalzyme or the Vascuzyme. I would kick it off with a 2-day fast, a water fast, and I would do those things and take your supplements, but lots and lots of the systemic enzymes. And I would avoid food allergies, especially if you're in all the wheat and the dairy. Silver. Argent silver has never been shown. See, there are different kinds of silver. You can make homemade silver by taking a coin and kind of doing electrolysis to dissolve it away and drink and use that solution. This guy with the blue man, he looks like a Smurf or something. Pyrogyria, he's got the blue tint on his skin. Yeah, now that's a different type and valence charge of a silver particle. Argent silver is a nanoparticulate. It's so much tinier, and we've been using it for decades and decades, and I've never seen a problem with it. swish and swallow. Is ED ejaculation better if given more slowly? I'm going to say no to that in general because I've been around ED ejaculation since I was 7. My earliest recollections of my grandfather getting ED ejaculation in the Great Lakes, Chicago area was when I was 7 years old. And so I've seen every which way to administer ED ejaculation, and I've seen the results so consistently. And I'm just going to have to say no. It's the total dosing and the amount that you get. Every chelation you get matters. Even if you can only afford it once a year or twice a year, every time you do it, you're blessing yourself. Cheryl, I have adrenal issues and low aldosterone. I was told I should go on DHEA, which will help the adrenals. That's true. The females in my family have female pattern baldness. If I go on DHEA, would I lose my hair? The answer is no in general, but you can do a blood test for DHT, dihydroxytestosterone. Testosterone can be converted into dihydroxytestosterone, and that's what's associated with baldness. Is there any blood test to see if I'm susceptible? I just answered that. Will the DHEA help my adrenals and low aldosterone? Yes, it should. How many milligrams should I start with? We typically start women, I start them at 25, but I take 50. Men, I usually start at 50 and go up to 100. Will the DHEA help my adrenals and low aldosterone? Yes. How many milligrams? I answered that. Okay. How do you know when to stop increasing the dosage? Well, you do a blood test for your not dihydrotestosterone, your DHEA level. I usually test within 3 months of starting any hormone or sooner. And I like to achieve levels that a 30-year-old, 35-year-old woman would have had, which are usually for a woman, if she's healthy, and it's harder and harder to find healthy 25 and 30-year-old women today. But I would say a level of 250 is a good number for a DHEA. I don't like anything less than 150, and I don't think you need to be much more than 500 or 600. That would be a really excellent level, at 20 years old, something like that. So those are all safe ranges, and you could also test the testosterone, because if you take DHEA, it is a precursor for testosterone, and that will help that go up too. I also take ashwagandha for stress. That's a good idea, and that is a herbal tonic that is helpful. But there's nothing like good old-fashioned exercise and a good night's sleep, and have your stomach, your last food dumped in your stomach around 5 o'clock, and not have a full stomach. That gives you a good night's sleep. All right, and let's see the next page. Lisa says, Happy Valentine's Day, Dr. E. Happy back to you, Lisa. Thanks for keeping our hearts healthy. Thank you. My 81-year-old aunt has recently been diagnosed with severe lumbar spin multifactional spiral stenosis. Oh, wow. On L3, L4, L4, 5. Her new primary doctor immediately referred her to a surgeon. She also has neuropathy. Can you recommend what else can help her condition instead of surgery? Yes, hormones, natural progesterone, natural estradiol, creams, and testosterone, and walking barefoot on a hard surface, and standing on a rebounder and gently bouncing up and down, and taking vitamin D3 with K2, MK7, at least 10,000 international units a day. Retest the levels of the hormones and the D and the DHEA in about a month. And if the D isn't in the 80 or above range, adjust upwards by 5,000 units each time. And as guided by her specialist, stretching and some physical therapy. and taking natural enzymes on an empty stomach, like Vitalzyme or Vascuzyme, that's where I would begin. Melissa, should we all be taking probiotics? If so, which one? In general, I'm going to say yes. And the reason for that is because we have used too many antibiotics throughout our lives. And very often we as children have already been given a round 2 or 3 rounds of antibiotics that can harm our gut lining and the microbiome, lasting up to 2+ years. So yeah, I think a probiotic, a good broad spectrum, well dosed, is very good. Would you please discuss elevated level of alkaline phosphatase? Well, if you're a growing child, your bone enzymes will be active and you should have elevated alkaline phosphatase. But if you have reached your adult height, then your alkaline phosphatase should be, at like 130. Alkaline phosphatase is also known to be a liver enzyme or a gastrointestinal enzyme produced. And if you're having gut problems, it can go up. So we fractionate it to try and determine, is this coming from the bone, the alkaline phosphatase, or is it coming from the GI system? One of the things you could do would be, if it's from the gut system, is do a fast, water fast, and rest your gut for 2 days. Use these gut healing products here, or they're similar named products we have here, which is the BioPC Pro, the phospholipids, the SBI Protect powder. Those help build that lining of your gut there. And then the probiotic, that's the powdered form. But you could use the oral capsule too. And then find out what food allergies or whether or not you need digestive enzymes, or get a complete digestive stool. See a good functional doctor, integrative doctor to do your exam, checking, your colonoscopy, checking your family history for colorectal cancer, and doing the appropriate tests. If you have a close family member with colon cancer, do it sooner. If you don't have any relative, then you can do it at 45 or the latest 50. Please discuss your bars, when to take and how many. Well, if you're on a low-carb diet, then you'll find our bars taste pretty good. For those of us who really try and eat a low profile for sugars, I don't think you should eat the bar every day. I honestly think you should rotate everything. And if you could have a bar every 3rd or 4th day, I think that's probably the ideal. If you're just starting out and you're trying to learn how to recook and cook real food instead of getting marketed to and tripped up on buying your food out all the time, then I could see you using our bar more often, because we designed it to try and get you a quick, healthy, phospholipid and protein lipid rich to fix the lining of your gut. But I never meant it to be something you would use every day or more than one a day. So that's kind of my philosophy on our doctor's nutrition bar. And is it possible for you to speak to doctor referrals, cardiology, chiropractor, breast care? Melissa, I don't think I should. Let me talk to my staff and the other doctors about it. We have some doctors that we use a lot for referrals, but I'll have to think about that one, Melissa. Harlow says, you are a sweet Valentine, Dr. Rita. Thank you so much, Harlow. I hear you mention taking estrogen and progesterone, but not too much of testosterone. Any reason? Well, mostly because I'm mostly talking to women. And I find that if women take DHEA, that their testosterone levels go up really as well, if not even better, than with testosterone cream replacement. So that's why. If you're male, then I'm going to use testosterone at much, much higher concentrations. I stopped using testosterone and only take natural estrogen and progesterone because my hair was falling off. And once I stopped the testosterone, my hair loss stopped. That's interesting. Um, and I don't know who your doctor is, but we should have tested your dihydrotestosterone. You can block dihydrotestosterone. That's a aromatase inhibitor, taking something like diindolylmethane, DIM, these blockers, and taking an anastrozole. So there's things we can take to block that conversion. Harlow also asks, what does it mean when there is blood in the urine? Is it from the bladder or kidneys? Well, if you're on hormones, you might have, and you have a uterus, then that might be coming from your vaginal canal, and you're having some breakthrough bleeding or your menstrual cycle. Remember, those of us who are on it and we cycle our progesterone, women even my age will still have a menstrual cycle every month. But if there's blood in your urine, you have to see a physician and get a urine and test that urine for red blood cells and do the appropriate workup, yes. And is too much protein from eating too much meat? Because the doctor told my brother to stop eating meat to bring down the protein. I find that amazing. Well, I don't know what your brother's problems are. I really have never met a person who ate too much protein. I've never seen that person. Constance, what are the best foods to eat to lower LDL? The best foods to eat to lower LDL are meat, fish, chicken, turkey, pork, eggs, bacon, things like that. Because starch, carb, sugars, grains, all these things make the sugar insulin go up and thicken the blood vessels and create inflammation, and that will make the liver produce more cholesterol to repair all the damaged cells. Eggs, chicken, dairy, beef, pork, and pastry seems to be on lists everywhere to limit or omit. Well, they're wrong about eggs, they're wrong about chicken, they're wrong about dairy, they're wrong about beef, they're wrong about pork. The only thing they got right was learn to limit the pastries. So how much is too much? My cholesterol used to be 212, now it's 235. That's wonderful, Constance. I love cholesterol. And in general, cholesterol is never the enemy. The enemy is not understanding the big picture. And the big picture is, what is your fasting insulin? If your fasting insulin is much above 4, then you're eating too many carbs, fruit sugars, and starches, carbohydrates. Insulin stimulates the thickening of the intima, the middle lining of the blood vessels, and then this is associated with cardiovascular disease growth, tumor growth, diabetes, high blood sugar, oxidative stress, vascular damage, inflammation. And then the liver sees the damaged little fragments off of the injured cell membrane, and then the liver will send out more cholesterol to repair it. That's how the story goes. I love cholesterol. You should Google mortality and low cholesterol. So you'll find the lower your cholesterol and the older you are, the more likely you will die sooner if your cholesterol's low. So go learn about that. Penny says, hi, Dr. Ellithorpe. My husband, 85, active, pretty good diet with numerous supplements, has atrial fibrillation and under the care of an open-minded cardiologist. Because my husband's vitamin D level was low, with increase in supplementation, now registers at 104. That's wonderful. I love it. His cardiologist felt it was borderline high. It is not borderline high, but did not recommend changing his supplementation. However, his endocrinologist was concerned because he felt that such high vitamin D increases the plaque in his arteries. That is absolutely not true. Should he lower his vitamin intake of D? The answer is no. The only thing you need to look for really with vitamin D at 104 is look at the liver enzymes. If the liver enzymes are elevated, then that fat soluble vitamin might be making it a little difficult. But I really have never seen that. I've never seen it at 104. I have patients who have, and in myself, vitamin D levels of 120, 140, and our liver enzymes are just fine. We're fine. We have strong bones. We fall down at 70, go boom, and we do not break. All right, so that's the end. Again, we went over. I started. Oh, there. Blake Mean says, "Happy Valentine's Day, Doctor. I love you. I love you too, Blake." And Eli, "Hi, Dr. Ellithorpe. God bless you for your practice and work. I fasted for 21 days. On the 31st, I ended my fast and started the carnivore diet, but I'm not in ketosis. Have any opinion why I'm not?" It could be, Eli, you're taking too many amino acid supplements. That might be one thing. You could be eating a little too much excess proteins. So I would see a good functional doctor who really understands physiology and nutrition, and look at your fasting insulin, look at your hemoglobin A1C, look at your triglyceride level, and looking at your what else? Your fasting blood sugar, of course. And then we'll be able to understand that better, okay? Christina, happy Valentine's Day. God bless. Thank you. Thank you, too. Eli says, blood type O, I think 6'2". Yeah. And Psalm 139, amen. Yes, Eli, that's the right one. Rose Morales, hi, Doctor. Fast 20 hours and 4 hours you eat. Okay, that's pretty much what I do. Blood type B, I'm a B. Take vitamin during the fast. Can I take my vitamins with Kangen water since it's 9.5? The answer is yes. I took adrenal support at night, but I wake up a little nervous. Should I continue? I would have to know you, Rosa, and what product it is, because there's so many wild products out there. One of the things we try and do is vet everything and test it here clinically. So I would just probably not do that. Harlow says, you're sweet. I'm embarrassed to read what you're reading, but thank you for the kind words that you give. And I love and appreciate my staff here, my husband, my sons, my daughter-in-law, and the 4 grandsons that she has given me. And I thank God for my church and my pastor and my congregation. And all my staff here, and my wonderful nurse, Terry, has revolutionized my life. My son who runs the place, and all my doctors here, we have the best team. I honestly feel like I'm at home at work. And when I'm at home, I miss work for, many, many of the times. It's just fun to be around all these wonderful people. And then finally, you, the patients, we do this for you. I love doing this, and I hope I give the right path, the right general path. And for that, I hope you have a beautiful evening. Happy Valentine's Day. Read the Bible, the author of true love, and take care. Good night.